Welcome to the Night Shift Court podcast. I'm Pidge.
And I'm Moen.
We are two shift-working fantasy book lovers and love nothing more than leaving reality behind for a bookish adventure.
Join us as we go under the mountain to discuss our favourite fantasy fiction tales and the authors behind them. Come with us to explore the stories, one shift at a time.
Hi, ladies.
Hi!
Beautiful. Just beautiful.
Yeah, I just thought I'd give it a little
The tongue man.
If you don't know what that is, Google it or YouTube it at 3 o'clock in the morning because it's so much funnier then.
Yeah, I would agree. I think I forget about it for a few years and then someone does it at work and I'm back and it's just as funny as it was the first time.
Yeah.
I love it.
Tongue man.
Don't Google tongue man at 3 in the morning.
Actually, no, that, yes. It's Eurovision
Winner?
tongue song.
Yeah, tongue. Yeah, yes.
That'll do. Yeah,
that is enough.
That will lead you in the right direction, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, welcome back.
Imagine being his girlfriend. Or rather, boyfriend.
Oh.
Based on the video.
Yeah, surely.
Welcome back.
Chapter 26 of Silver Flames is where we're going to be commencing. This is episode 53.
It is.
This is officially New Year, New Us. New Year, same us.
Yeah.
Dedicated to us.
Yeah.
Look at our personalised, customised birthday present.
Yes.
That Pidge made painstakingly. She called me one day and she was very stressed with her cricket because she was trying to do all the little bits and pieces that is the Night Court insignia and the Night Shift Court logo. But these beautiful bottles are from a brand called Ella and Earth and they're just delicious to drink out of.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you, Pidge.
You're welcome.
And thank you, Ella and Earth. And thank you to us.
Yes, thank you, us. Go us.
Go us.
I am both enlightened and disappointed by the fact that I have ADHD and that means I have many little hobbies that I'm not very good at instead of just being good at one hobby in particular. But what I love is that when I'm having an issue, even though it's your birthday present, I call you and I'm like, oh my God. We have to change the logo.
Yeah.
I cannot handle it.
Yeah, and she's like, I can't tell you what I need to tell you, but also, and then danced around the entire subject so I would kind of figure it out, but not in its entirety. So, yeah, look, she's a special friend. And by special, I do mean in that politically incorrect way.
Yes, special indeed. All right.
Shall we?
Let's.
Okay. Kicking off with Cassian.
Oh, yes.
Delicious as he is.
Yes.
Nesta finds him sitting in a chair drinking a glass of wine, looking miserable.
Yes, and the wine just poofs as soon as she walks in the room. I would be offended.
Yeah.
I can't control myself like some wild animal.
But, I mean, to be fair,
Well, yes, but it could have been more subtle.
She may have erupted into silver flames. If she had visualised the wine, she would have been like, that scene in The Lord of the Rings where Bilbo visualises the ring and he goes, rah!
Oh, yes.
That's what I kind of feel like Nesta would be doing if she did see the wine.
I'm offended on her behalf. I feel like the house could have just waited until Cassian set the wine down and they were in conversation and it just
casually disappeared.
and so much so that she didn't even notice it disappeared. Do you know
Not
what I mean?
and she's like, oh,
like it made an audible sound. I'm offended for her. Anyway.
Yeah, so they have a conversation and this is post the meeting with Eris. So Nesta's like, what went down? And
give me the tea.
Give me the tea. And he tells her that he intends to help them find the trove and he's going to keep it a secret from Beren.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the way everyone wants it. So, Cassian obviously has little love for Eris.
Yeah, he actually says to her, he explains why he hates them. So he says, hates them.
Hates him.
Hates him
Yeah.
specifically. It's the ugliness of his soul that riles me. I don't care if he calls me a mongrel bastard. It's just that, ally or not, I hate him. He's so slick and unruffled, and I can't stand him. Eris and his twisted word games and politics are an enemy I don't know how to handle. Every time I meet with him, I feel like he's got the upper hand, like I can only catch up to him, and he sees through my every fumbling attempt at being clever. Maybe that makes me a stupid brute after all. And does this not remind you of someone else who is slick and good with word games and politics?
Reese.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The only difference between Eris and Reese is that Cassian has not had 500 years to figure out Eris, and also he's not on his side or doesn't appear to be on his side, whereas he knows Reese is. And so his word games and politics are not things he has to navigate at all because he knows that Reese has good intentions. But that's the only difference between them.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. As you were talking, I'm like, this is exactly Reese. And yeah, it's just the unfamiliarity and unbrotherliness that they have.
That's right.
Yeah. So Nesta tries to cheer Cassian up.
In the only way she knows how.
I mean, yes, this is the most proven way to cheer a man up, isn't it?
Animals.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I'm not going to say any more, but things are escalating, but the chaperone appears.
Yes. Look, I will talk about it. I have a few notes.
Sure, go ahead.
So firstly, she describes that he has a massive cock. And all I could think about was, of course he does.
Yes. Well, wingspan.
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. So there's a very detailed page about how good Nesta is at this activity. And in the end, he calls her a triumphant queen, which is quite the compliment.
It really is, isn't it?
Yeah. So he's then like, all right, well, we've begun. So take off your pants.
Let's continue.
Yeah. And remembering these are the Illyrian leathers. So then it's the Ross situation.
The Ross Geller
Do you know what I
again.
mean?
Yeah.
And also, even if she's not sweaty, taking off tight leather pants is never seductive.
No.
Do you know, like you've got to pull them from the ankle.
Yeah.
That's that sort of pant. You don't just drop them and they fall down.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Otherwise you're stood there with your pants half down.
Yeah.
So she'd be bending over to pull the ankle and then, getting it off your heel.
It's the wriggles.
It's not accurate.
I'm literally hearing you describe it and I'm like wriggling my own body to try and assist her out of said pants.
That's right.
It's not like the seductive stocking where you
That's right,
point
yes.
the toe and you
and it rolls
shimmy
down.
No,
Yes,
it's
no.
not like that at all.
Not at all.
But it doesn't matter because the world's biggest cock block is there to save the day.
That's right. Deliberately scuffing his feet. Poor Azriel, just loving himself sick, moving about. He would forget that he's so silent. And could you imagine the situations that he's accidentally walked in on over the years and been like,
But not this time. He's like, dum,
yeah,
dum, dum.
maybe he deliberately does it now every time he walks into a room. So in he comes and all like calm and swaggery and with the eyebrows at the hairline, and he sits down and starts to eat, which
As you do.
I
mean, it's the kitchen after all. It's the dining room.
that's right.
Oh.
But Nesta promptly excuses herself.
Yeah.
And Cassian says, thanks for that. And Azriel's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
I love him. I love him.
Azriel tells Cassian to save some for later.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting comment to make to someone, isn't it? I'm like, well, what? Is that your business?
But also, I kind of get it, right? Because he has a point. Anticipation is fabulous. But also...
It don't need any help with my how I choose to do the anticipation, though, Azriel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thank you, but it's none of your
Shush.
business. Except for the fact that it is his business, because he says, you let her suck your cock in the middle of the dining room at a table I'm currently using to eat my dinner, and I'd say that entitles me to an opinion.
And fair.
Yeah. Rightly so.
So moving on to the fact that there's some research going on about the trove in the library.
Yeah.
Gwyn has come up with donuts. There's nothing.
No.
There's no nothing, which is very unhelpful.
Yeah.
We move towards Cassian preparing to go to Windhaven, and Nesta has given him a package to give to Emery. And this is the Nesta that I love. Because she has listened to somebody and she has gifted them thoughtfully. And this reminds me of you.
Yes, I must admit I am a thoughtful gift giver.
Yes, you're like the person who listens to all the little details and you're like, I'm going to jot that down and in 6 months' time I'm going to give you the best gift and you're going to be so chuffed.
I have a note on my app.
Of course you do.
Yes, for the different people and the different things that they say.
Yes.
I feel like it creeps people out though because they would think when I am speaking to them that I'm analysing every little bit and the truth is that I am.
Yes, that's but I'm okay with that.
Yes.
So we're fine.
fine.
Yeah. So spices and tea, which is exactly what Emery's been lacking.
Specifically cumin,
Yeah.
turmeric, cinnamon, allspice, cloves, black pepper, salt.
Salt, the king of seasoning, honestly. I mean, being Greek, I'm a bit biased. I could get by with everything except salt.
Yes, yeah. I don't like black pepper actually.
Don't
I
you?
was thinking about this the other day. Who like cracked black pepper?
Yes.
No.
I love it.
No, but like when you get the bit, just the one bit that stays in your mouth when the rest of the food goes away.
No, it has to be cracked appropriately so that it's fine enough to be like a coating.
Fine black pepper I'm okay with, but cracked black pepper, I'm just not a huge fan of pepper. I never have been.
Okay, so this is so boring for everyone, but you know, I
Welcome.
will tell you anyway, okay? Put up with it. Cracked black pepper in cooking, yes. The only thing I do like cracked black pepper on...
Tomatoes.
Tomatoes.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say that.
Because I'm a wog.
Half that, half I know you well enough. I've seen you crack said pepper on tomatoes many a time.
Yeah. And a bit of balsamic glaze and some olive oil. Yes. Yeah. And if you rub garlic clove on the bread before you slice the tomato, fuck yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
This is not a cooking podcast though. So back to Cassian.
So he delivers the spices.
Does.
And he tells her to come to training tomorrow morning. She declines and he's like, well, no worries. Just send word if you change your mind, which I think Nesta's done it deliberately. But at the same time, I don't think she'd be any more offended if Emery didn't come the next day. Do you know what I mean? Like she'd be disappointed, but like she's been disappointed every other day that no one showed up.
It's just the same again.
It's not a trade situation. It's just in this conversation you told me this and then I had the opportunity to get a gift for you and so I chose these things.
So Emery does appear at training the next day.
She does.
Which makes everyone rather happy, particularly smug old Cassian, who is kind of like an I told you so moment. But perseverance is key. And
correct.
My daughter does tell me perseverance when I'm frustrated at something.
Yes.
And she, at 4, says, you try and you never give up. And I like that. So Emery does tend to struggle a bit at training.
Yeah, because of her wings.
Yeah, which is, I feel really sad. But anyway, Cassian explains it's because her wings are clipped, it puts her off kilter, essentially.
Yeah. It's not supposed to happen.
No, of course. It's like part of your anatomy. It's basically the same as having an amputated leg.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So people that are,
It's
lacking
different for them.
for their normal anatomy, they have to learn differently.
That's right.
Emery's father didn't have a healer do the clipping. So it was done in a brutal way, which basically...
She said that she fought him and that made his work sloppier.
Super sloppy. And I just can't imagine that your father
doing.
It's pretty
awful, isn't it?
Yeah.
No wonder she hates him.
Yeah.
Like it seems a bit of a thing amongst Illyrians between men and women, but you would think that they're noble enough that they would protect their family, but they're not, in fact. But Cassian offers to have Madja come up to the house to look at her wings. And all I could think of was like, can you imagine flying her?
Flying Maja.
the oldest lady in Valaris.
Yeah.
To the House of Wind. She'd die on the way up, I reckon.
She probably would. Why in my head does Maja look like a little Greek yaya from the village?
Exactly who I thought of.
Yeah.
Very frail.
Yes. And, I'll give you a Disney visual.
Okay.
You know the image in the stained glass window of the witch that casts the spell in Beauty and the Beast?
Yes, yeah.
Like
yes.
withered crone vibes?
Yes, withered crone, yeah.
Yep, that's
Except
Maja.
nice.
Nicer, yes. She's kind.
Yes. Now, they talk about books here, and I just wanted to talk about something in particular because they talk about how they all like to read and they start bonding over the fact that they read similar books,
Relatable.
Yeah. And Emery asks Nesta if she has read any of the Selin Drake books.
This is just you, me, and Roz and Lauren at work 3 years ago.
Yes.
Going, have you read the Akatas?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Now, Google produces no such author as Selin Drake. However, it did autocorrect to Celine Drake.
Ooh.
And Sarah is quite famous for changing names and using references of names to people that she quite likes.
Ooh.
So there's a theory out there that she actually really likes Celine Drake's books, and as a result, she chose to use Selin Drake in her book so that people would Google it, but it would autocorrect to Celine Drake.
Isn't that
therefore,
kind?
Pushing anyway. So she's a paranormal romance and urban fantasy book author.
Okay.
There is also a theory in ACOTAR that Azriel is Selin Drake writing romance books.
Wow.
Have you heard about that?
No, but that kind of spoils my fun. Is that
Why?
what he's doing all day?
Exactly. While he's watching Free Allen, he's like, a thought just popped into my head.
Oh.
Well, he's got enough exposure around him between Cassian and Nesta.
He's got the material, that's for
right.
sure. Yeah.
Cassian is begging to be saved from obsessed females while they're all gibbering about books. But Rhys does arrive eventually to take Emery home. She bows very low to him, and Gwen's looking a bit starstruck and also bows to him. Right? It's very kind. Cassian throws his arm over Nesta's shoulder just to piss Rhys off.
I love this.
And she leans into the contact. And Rhys has a little bit of a mind chat with Nesta. He's still very defensive, Rhys.
Yes.
And he says, you are to tweak.
Tweak? You want to tweak Cassian's nipple?
He says you are to treat Gwen with kindness and respect, which is lovely too, though, because he obviously knows who she is and he's made this dedicated place for the priestesses. And I'm sure that he knew Gwen was already there and training, but I don't know why he felt the need to say it.
Yeah, and obviously that Rhys will have his epiphany about the depths of Nesta's trauma soon, and will have more of an understanding, and they will have more of a mutual understanding of one another's position, which heals their relationship somewhat.
Yeah.
But at this moment, her response is mind your own business is entirely warranted.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that she responded that way because truth be told, she's shown nothing but kindness to these women.
Yeah.
And the fact that he can't see her intentions getting the women to come to training means that he doesn't understand her yet.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. What I did think was really cute was that when it's time to go, Rhys picks up Emery and they fly away, which is very kind because if you remember, Rhys could just winnow her and she's Illyrian and she can't fly. So instead of winnowing her, he flies her back to Windhaven so that she has the opportunity to experience
Flying.
what it's like to fly.
Yeah.
And he doesn't say it and it's not said anywhere, but I think it's really cute.
It is.
He does ruin the moment though before he clears the wards around Valaris. He says, I don't know what the fuck you two have been doing in this house, but it reeks of sex.
Yeah. I'm sure Cockblock McGee has worded up the High Lord.
Do you think, because they're not having sex, do you think it's Azriel that reeks of such events?
I haven't been there, so no.
Like you might not be referring to Cassian and Nesta in this particular scenario.
I feel like the scent is not necessarily from the sex. I feel like it's from two people who are mated,
Yes.
who are permeating hormones all
Yes.
over creation, and they're doing
Yes.
everything but. So I kind of feel like,
Yeah, true.
yeah, I just feel like their scents are heightened from spending time with one another and their mates.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agree. Nesta wakes from the same nightmare that she has again and again and again. So she goes to the stairs and, mate, she is keen.
3,000 this time.
Yeah. She recalls that neither Cassian or Azriel had been at dinner that night, and she was surprised to find herself lonely. She thinks she's failed every task that's been given to her, so why would she succeed at finding the dread trove? The house produces her with a glass of water and a cooling breeze, and it also puts some stones and bones on the step next to where she sits. So it's the house urging her to scry.
Yeah.
The reason that Cassian and Azriel were not at dinner was that they're actually down at the river house having their monthly dinner.
Yeah.
Which is a cute little date for all of them.
I quite like it.
Yeah.
But essentially they have this massive chat about what Nesta should do, which I'm annoyed for Nesta that they're discussing her life without her.
I found this particular conversation to be so interesting, and there was so many little bits about it for me. Firstly, Feyre had gone to bed because she's pregnant.
Fair.
Relate.
Yep.
Elaine has also gone to bed, saying that she needed to be up with the dawn to tend to an elderly fairy's garden. Cassian suspects the lie. Interesting, isn't it?
I don't think I picked up on that, to be
Yeah,
honest.
little Easter egg there.
Yeah,
I wonder
thank
why
you.
she has to be up with the dawn. So they discuss asking Tarquin to research the trove in his library, but Rhys says that he will ask Elaine to scry before he approaches Tarquin. But Azriel stiffens and says there is an innate darkness to the dread trove that Elaine should not be exposed to.
Protective much?
Yeah, interesting.
You know, this does support your theory of light bringer, light
Singer.
because it may dampen her power, so to speak. Or my theory that she's a siphon, as in she can siphon
The
power
power of the
of
dread
those
trove.
around her, and therefore, yes, the power of the dread trove.
Because they're talking about asking her to scry,
Yeah.
which is being there, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like in your mind.
Yeah.
And if she is a siphon, then yeah, she could definitely use its power.
Yeah, which is definitely a bit tentative to do.
I think as well that if the cauldron figured out, or these items figured out rather, that she could do that, she's very, very valuable to Briallen at that point.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? To find them.
Yeah.
So
Gosh, there's so many questions. There's so
Yeah.
many questions now.
there?
What is the power? What is Elaine?
But they do give Nesta a week to find the trove before they start to pursue other options.
Yes.
And that's kind of where it ends, which is fair.
Yeah.
Right. She's close.
So we're back to the library now. And Gwen finds Nesta in the library and says that Meryl somehow found out that she's swapped the book out. So,
And Nesta's like, all right,
yeah.
I don't care.
Yes.
She's
And
like, Gwen is shitting herself. And
Yeah.
Nesta's like,
She cares not.
What's the problem?
yeah. So she's like, look, Meryl's coming to find you. And Nesta's
Yeah.
like, bring it on.
Yeah.
And then we have this interaction between Meryl and we learn a little bit about her.
She is descended from Rabbath, Lord of the Western Wind.
Like, sure,
Cool.
that means absolutely nothing to us.
yeah.
But I'm sure your self-importance speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Nesta isn't bothered
No.
at all and,
Unbothered.
and argues right back.
Yeah.
And eventually Meryl leaves. And,
She does.
And she calls Gwyn a nymph.
Yes. We also learn Gwyn's last name,
Yes.
which is so interesting because not a lot of characters have a surname. And I'll
Or-
remind you.
We don't hear them.
Yeah. So before she goes, she says, get back to your work, nymph. And Gwen explains to Nesta about her mother. So her grandmother was a river nymph who seduced a high fae male from the autumn court. So she, therefore, is quarter nymph.
Yes.
But it's enough for this. and she gestures to her large eyes, which we've talked about them being crystal blue, and her lithe body. She says, "My bones are slightly more pliant than ordinary high fays, but who cares about that?"
Someone's going to care.
Azriel cares about that. He is going to bend you over and you are going to fold like a piece of paper.
Oh, that's my man.
Honestly, that's all I could think of was like that she is flexible.
Snaps for Gwyn. If she can utilise that to her advantage, I am jealous. Most of us have to do yoga in our 30s to bend like a nymph. So Gwyn's mother was unwanted by the nymphs or the high fae. So she was actually sent to Sangravar and she was raised there. She partook in the Great Rite, and when she was of age, she had Gwyn and Gwyn's twin sister.
Where's the twin?
Yeah, and
we know that twins are very significant.
That's right.
Based on previous twins from the series.
We also don't ever learn who the fae was that she slept with.
Yes. And why she seduced him.
Yes.
Like if she knew that her child was going to be cast out, why? Maybe she didn't seduce him. Maybe they were in love.
Maybe.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And he was bound by pressures that she didn't know of and cut it off with her or, you know, whatever.
There are some theories that I have heard. Who do we know who has contact with nymphs from their court?
Tamlin.
Yes. There is some theories that Tamlin may be the father of the nymphs, but
I actually think it's more likely to be like Beron, and like maybe he has a sob story as in like he fell in love with a river nymph and she got pregnant, but then he might be like the second brother and then their father died and the power transferred to him and he wasn't expecting it to.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and then he was bound by the rules of the court or whatever the situation is and they couldn't be together. So you never like it. He might have a sob story behind why he's such an asshole. And then he married their mum just because he had to, and produced heirs because he had to, and so did she.
Yes,
like there might be.
And she had no love for him either. Obviously,
that's right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that we're going to actually find out more about that. I don't think that it's probably an important writing piece, but it is good to theorise.
Yeah.
So we have 3 priestesses show up to training the next day.
Yeah.
Rosalind, Deirdre.
Rosalind. She's back.
Not that one. Deirdre or Deirdre. How do you say it?
I would say Deirdre.
Okay. And Anarchy.
That's how I would pronounce it. But I'm also negative in being good with pronunciation.
Correct.
That's how I read it and that's how it will always be. Because you know when you read in a book a word in your head and you spell it out in your head and you're like, that's what it is, and you can never read it a different way ever.
Like rice and?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Cassian greets them in the most subtle way possible. He's like, oh shit, they're here now. And Deirdre tugs back her hood, revealing quite a vicious scar that cuts across her face, which is really interesting. Like obviously another priestess with a story. And she says, I hope we're not too late. And they begin.
I just love this for Nesta because I think it gives her really something to live for and focus on that's not toxic.
That night, Nesta and Cassian are in a private library and they've got a map of the 7 courts laid out on a table in front of her. She asks the house for the stones and bones and Cassian steps up so he's nice and close to her as per their regular routine. She tries to scry and just sees nothing at all. She tries and tries.
I think it's important that she says to Cassian that if she's going to ask the priestesses to face her fears, that she has to do the same. And she is terrified of scrying because she obviously has a huge sense of fear about going back to that very traumatic place for her, re-entering the cauldron.
Yep.
And she essentially afterwards leaves the scrying attempt feeling so deflated and essentially says, my power's gone.
Yeah.
And
which is a lie.
It's a total lie. And Cassian knows it. And he says, it's not, your power is not gone. I can feel it in your bones and I can see it in your eyes. It's there. It's dormant, but she doesn't know how to access it because of her fear, essentially. He leaves her and she's off
She
to
goes
bed.
to bed. Yeah.
and she has a nightmare.
Yeah, I love this portion. I love it.
This is the dark bit.
Yeah.
And I feel like this would be an epic scene if they ever do a video.
I can see it in my head.
Yeah.
So she feels the presence of the cauldron coming for her, and she describes it as slithering through the cracks of the house under her door and into her room. She sees it hover over her, and she says, a cloud with no shape, no form, but such a wicked presence that she knew its name before it leaped. Oh my God.
A lot.
And unfortunately, her worst nightmare has come true, right? This is what she was afraid of, was the cauldron coming back for her. Cassian jolts awake, but everything in the house is silent. But he knows something is wrong. And he sort of sits up and like waits for a second, and the lights in the house turn on and then start flickering, which is like from a horror movie. You know when horror movies do that, when lights start to flicker? Yeah.
But it's the house going, you're fucking required.
Yes.
It's like at work when we're like, excuse me, assistance.
Yeah, so you should have just clicked your fingers.
Yeah. So he's grabbed his knife and he's fucking heading for the door, and the door flings open.
Yes.
And he's charging down the hallway, but he can hear Azriel following him too. So Az is like onto
awake.
it.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So just want to talk for a moment here about what they would be wearing.
Well, it says shorts, right? It says he's in just shorts.
Do you think Azriel's wearing shorts?
No,
to bed? Do you think he stopped to put on shorts?
No.
He did not.
If he does, all I can feel in my head is Matt Shirvington, the runner. Do you remember Matt Shirvington?
No, I was like, he's not an ex of yours. What are you talking about?
Matt Shirvington was a runner, an Australian runner, Olympic level, and he went a bit viral back in his day for some between the leg motion.
Oh. When he was running.
Yeah.
No, I know about the most recent guy from the most recent Olympics with the pole vaulting. Did you see that one?
No, but
oh my God. You know where they have the big long stick and then they run?
I do know what the pole vault is.
And then they stick it in and then they jump up over it. So he wasn't wearing tight underpants. I'll have to show you the video, and it's quite hilarious.
We shall confer.
And he
after
almost
this episode.
lost the medal.
He was weighed down, was he?
It bounced the pole. This is the 2024 version of Matt, whatever his name was.
Okay, all right, we'll confer after this. But more importantly, no. I think, well, yes, Cassian is said to be wearing shorts. I doubt he very much is. And he's definitely not putting them on as he like hops out the door.
Yeah. This is the leather pants, but like, can you imagine the synthetic stretchy shorts, trying to put those on, get your foot through them? No.
At least Azriel can summon shadows.
That's true. He'd probably summon shadows just like for Cassian
He's
too,
like,
just
here
to
you
not
go,
see,
yes.
just to not have to look at it.
So they make it to Nesta's bedroom door, and he finds her in bed, bathed in a silver fire, screaming.
Yeah, it's so awful, isn't it?
It's very unclear what's happening, and I think, you know, Azriel says something like holy gods or something like that from memory, and I thought when I heard that, because I was listening to the audio of this section, and when I heard him say holy gods, I was like, that's a very non-Azriel thing to say.
Yes.
And it made me think about, again, what the fuck is Azriel?
Yeah.
Where is he from?
Yeah.
Where did these Shadow Singer powers come from? Like, there's so much more we don't know about him.
Yeah.
And so that was just a little tidbit. But essentially, they are watching Nesta thrash and scream in bed. Something from the exorcism comes to mind. And then some, you know, the mist kind of parts and Cassian sees Reese. And he's trying to wake Nesta. He's like, this is a dream. He's like,
he is screaming at her whilst trying to control the fire with his own power. And they're basically like battling for dominance, the two powers, which is probably really confronting for everyone because Reese is the most powerful person that they've ever met, right? And all of a sudden he's actually having to work to contain Nesta's power.
You know what it is, don't you?
What?
It's the fucking Expelliarmus and the Avada Kedavra and the fucking, do you know what that's what it is. The battle of the powers.
Yes, it is. Cassian calmly approaches the bed and calls her name once and then twice, and she pays attention to him and her power stutters out before she falls unconscious.
Yep.
Rhys explains that he went into her dream and she was dreaming of when she was in the cauldron. He tells them that he felt what the cauldron did to her and he knew her trauma was deep, but experiencing it himself was something else. And Azriel asks, what is her power? And he stands and before he leaves, he says death, pure death. Oh, my God.
Honestly, I actually just got goosebumps.
Did you?
I've read this book twice and I've listened to it at least 3 times and I still get goosebumps when I think about this section.
Yeah.
So the fact it's gratifying for me because Rhys finally understands Nesta and that's important for the story, but then also to finally understand what Nesta's power is and how Cassian doesn't care.
Yeah.
It's like the ultimate relationship, right? Accept me for my flaws and love me anyway.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's what I kind of think this whole moment is kind of about, these two things.
There's quite a famous quote that says, you know, when is a monster not a monster? And the answer is, well, when you love it.
Yeah.
It's no longer a monster.
That's so true.
So Nesta comes to the next morning. She's awake and recalls both a familiar male calling her name as well as another male who was kind, leading her out of a horrible nightmare. So she's talking about 2 there, and I interchange between which one she's calling Rhys.
Yeah.
Like a familiar male calling her name, they both did,
Yep.
as well as another male who was kind, also Rhys,
Yes.
right, and also Cassian, leading her out of a horrible nightmare.
Yeah. I don't know which one she means.
Yeah.
And I feel the same. I feel like they are interchangeable.
Yes. And now one of my favourite tropes is where she wakes up and he's sleeping in a chair next to her bed.
It is the cutest mini trope, isn't it? Like the vigil. Yeah, I love that too.
Yeah. So she realises it wasn't a dream. It actually happened. And she describes blinking away tears and the sounds of her eyelids waking him. Whose husband out there wakes at like the tiniest little noise? Because mine certainly does not.
No, neither does mine.
It takes a fire alarm to wake him.
Yeah, or 3 to 5 business days.
Yeah. So he asks her if she's okay and she says yes. He asks her if she wants to talk about it and she says no. And that's the end of the conversation.
Fair.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a very relatable conversation for a husband and wife to have.
Yeah, yes, I agree. Training comes along and Emery and Gwen ask Nesta if she's okay. They can obviously tell that there's something different about her today. She admits to them that she has bad dreams, which is quite a big step for Nesta to say something like that. And Gwen admits the same.
I think that this is purely to establish that the trust has been built between the 3 of them, that they're comfortable enough to talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
And Nesta showing vulnerability is the biggest shock.
Yes. Now, Cassian and Rhys sit in his office and we've spoken in previous episodes about Rhys doing the things that he's doing but appearing distracted. And we've kind of touched on it a few times, but this time Cassian decides to push him and see what the fuck is actually happening and why he appears so distracted. And he tells him that the baby has wings. So
were you like, oh, that's really cute, until you realise what that meant? Because
I was like, oh, that's really cute, until I figured out why.
Yeah.
So he explains that Feyre was in her Illyrian form when he was conceived. So when she shapeshifts, she becomes her form, and as a result, the baby is also Illyrian. And that creeps me out because I think he was conceived when they're in the sky, right? Like, why would she be in her Illyrian form if they weren't flying? Do you remember that time where they did it in the sky? And
of course they did. Of course she's that fertile.
Yeah.
As if I couldn't hate her enough in this moment that she literally...
The pants off entirely situation.
Exactly.
Like in the sky.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a little bit like, well, that was silly. And also when you figured it out, wouldn't you just have, like, they describe about how Madja has said that she should not shift or use shape-shifting because they don't know what impact it'll have on the baby. But I was a little bit like, well, like she should have just stayed in her Illyrian form then, right? Like until the baby's born. Like, you should have thought about that.
I feel like if Feyre shifted now, it probably wouldn't have any impact on the baby.
Right.
It's like having,
Sushi,
exactly.
Like the odds are fine. It's just that one person got it once and unfortunately we're risk adverse.
Yeah. I think the funniest thing for me in this exchange is that Cassian's like, but the baby is only a quarter Illyrian. Yeah. And then, they explain that no, it's actually 3/4 Illyrian because Feyre made herself full Illyrian and Rhys is half and blah, blah, blah. I love that Cassian's doing the maths about the percentage of Illyrianness.
Yes.
But yes, essentially Rhys does the unthinkable now. I hate this part. This is where I was like, Rhys, this is the first red flag. I know people have lots of red flags about Rhys. I don't have one until this point when he says that Feyre is forbidden from knowing this information.
Yes.
And whilst I understand that he doesn't want to frighten her because the risk of her dying in labour until they figure this shit out is huge.
Yes.
I just think that lying about something big like that is probably the worst thing you can do as a partner.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the wrong choice. I can see why he made the choice because he is already wildly protective of her in any given situation, and now that she is pregnant, the shield, etc., we can understand. So I can see why he's wanting to shield her just as he shields others from being near her. I understand his intention, but the delivery is that he's keeping a very significant secret from her that could impact her death or life.
Yes. And the life of the baby.
That's right.
And therefore the life of Rhys.
Yes. I don't think it's the best choice that they've ever made, but interestingly, we get to hear a little bit more about Tamlin because they're a little bit worried that Tamlin's going to learn of Feyre's pregnancy and basically have an absolute meltdown about it.
Exactly.
Poor baby.
Poor baby Tamlin. The best thing is about this, and I meant what I said in the description of last week's episode. I miss Lucien.
Yeah.
Okay, I miss him.
Yeah.
And
well, good news, they're recalling him.
They're recalling him to tell him such nonsense and station him at the Spring Court.
Poor Lucien gets all the shit jobs, doesn't he?
To contain any damage to be their eyes and their ears.
Eye roll.
Just
had to look at my brain for a real quick second.
Short second, yeah.
Thank you for a beautiful shift. That's it for this episode of the Night Shift Court podcast.
Join us again next week as we continue Akatar's Book 5, A Court of Silver Flames.
Whichever platform you're listening on, we would so appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star review. It helps our podcast grow.
You can follow us at Instagram, Facebook and TikTok at The Night Shift Court.